We're good? We're good. All right. Hey, what is up? Welcome to another Tales from the Losers bracket. This is the Tekken edition, and I wouldn't exactly. Hello there. People are coming in. This is of course taking place at MVA.
Yeah.
Once again, and the title this time is a bit of a misnomer because our friend over here is not exactly a losers bracket participant now, is he?
No,
Stroke yourself off, why don't you?
So we've had, I think, 12 or 13 weeklies, and every weekly I have attended, I have come out in first place.
Hey, how about that?
Yeah.
Now you go by very bad man these days.
Yeah.
Once upon a time it was Rami Fu.
Well, my Facebook name is Rami Fu, but my actual gamer tag for like 15 years was Potato Brain.
Potato Brain.
So a lot of people may remember me from the Tekken 5 days or like Evo 2014.
Okay.
I made top 25 at Tekken.
Hey.
I could have made top 16, but I don't think I could have made top 8 that year because those guys were like straight up much better than me at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last set you did with Neo Wrestle, how'd it go?
Oh, I won.
Okay. All right. Just checking. So, all right. Very cool. What I wanted to do is talk a bit about Tekken because this is my channel and I'm getting into Tekken and I talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk. No, I think now is a really, really cool and exciting and interesting and weird time in the FGC.
Yes.
And a lot of things are happening and things are changing and shifting and moving and sliding all over the place. And personally, I've always dabbled and been interested in Tekken, and played casually for years, as everyone has.
I remember you in the Tekken Tag 2 days.
Right, I tried.
Ogre Steve.
That was my first attempt at trying to take it seriously. Right, up until that time, I'd been just sliding around with, like everyone else, Tekken 3, kick buttons, Eddie Gordo, and then I'd always watched and seen like this looks really cool from a competitive point of view, but Capcom for life, right? That's the CP boys.
A lot of players said that. And it's unfortunate because
oh god, that's a bad acronym. Anyway,
CP boys.
Oh no!
Too late now. It's out there, Woolie. It's in the world.
Anyway, the point is, Street Fighter was the way of life. And that's all we did. And anyway, due to various things, which I guess I feel like we should talk about. Right now, Tekken is in a healthy place.
Extremely.
And there's a lot of people that are starting to make the shift, and or at the very least consider picking up this 3D game where they wouldn't have considered it before.
So, you said you tried to take it seriously in Tekken Tag 2,
yes.
right? And that, in my opinion, was like the worst time to take Tekken seriously. Because Tekken Tag 2 was so complex as a game. Like, you weren't just learning to play Tekken. You were learning to play Tekken with two different characters and how every one of their combos interacted. And that meant every match you played involved at least like 4 different matchups, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to learn your character versus the other opponents, and then your other character versus both of his.
Right.
So if you're lucky, you're facing double Lees, like Lee and Violet, but most of the time you're facing something weird like Ogre and Jin or something crazy, right? So you're learning 2 matchups every time you play. It's a lot of work. For Tekken 7, I feel like Harada and team did a sick job, like really simplifying the game without dumbing it down.
Okay.
There's the only way I can explain that. The game is, at first glance, it seemed simpler and less good and dumber than previous Tekkens, but in fact, it isn't. It's so deep and complex due to the nature of the new mechanics they added and the way they simplified it.
So that's something that has been like discussed back and forth a little bit from time to time on our podcast. Has been just like, what does the competitive scene think of this in the grand scheme, right? And there's the people that are like pretty casual that are just like it starts and ends with Tekken 3, bro. And there's one or two of those that are a part of our channel, and you can't fight nostalgia. That's fine, but at the very least, it's just like okay. But when it comes to competitively, there's different opinions out there as to what is worth your time and what people want to play. Now, I think that we can say that the dust has settled a bit. 5DR was the competitive standard.
Yep.
And where do you think Tekken 7 today, as it stands,
I would say
stacks up?
Tekken 7 right now has the same depth and complexity as Tekken 5 DR.
Okay.
I would say it's slightly more complex because there's more stuff added into it, as always, because it's like 3 iterations later, right? But in terms of your basic gameplay, a lot of players, American players, who didn't have access to Tekken 7, even though it was in the arcades for 2 years in Japan and Korea, it wasn't really out in North America because arcades vanished here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of American players were training for Tekken 7 tournaments by practicing Tekken 5 DR at home.
Ah.
Yeah, that's how similar the
okay.
games are in terms of like the values, if you will.
Okay. And Japan got a huge head start.
Oh yeah, like
That was ridiculous. I don't
2
think,
full years, man.
like that hasn't happened to a fighting game since like the early aughts. I feel.
Well, it's because they expected, I guess they hoped or thought maybe North Americans would have more access to arcades, but because of the way arcades have been dying all over the world except for Asia, the game was out in the arcades everywhere from day one. So if you were lucky enough to have an arcade near you that could get a system, you could play it.
Right.
But
right.
most people didn't because, where are there even arcades? I mean, in Montreal, if you think about it, we have one, and
Oh my
it's
God.
downtown, and it's like
It
crane games.
it doesn't
and-
even count.
You know?
It doesn't even count anymore. It's pretty much dead.
Yeah.
Places like this are what you have to sort of rely on, and
Yep.
like meetups at people's houses and such.
So I would say the disadvantage was really strong competitively because, when you've got someone like JDCR who is sick at the game, he's the current reigning champ, right? Someone like him was just disgustingly good. And then on top of that, he has access to this game for 2 years before you do. Like, not only do you have to overcome the skill hurdle, you also have to overcome 2 years more of experience.
It's experience,
right?
exactly.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
But the upside, there is an upside. Tekken 7 came out almost 2 years ago, and the first version was pretty garbage. I'm not going to lie. The balance was off. They had nerfed sidestepping and backdashing.
Okay.
So-
You're talking about Punko Edition?
No, way before that. That was FR.
Okay.
This is straight up Tekken 7 vanilla.
Okay.
We've never touched that in North America. But the way the game worked was they had nerfed sidestepping, they had nerfed movement and backdashes, and a lot of stuff was just too strong.
You know what? I just remembered. Sorry, I played that a couple weeks ago in LA at one of the arcades there and I noticed when I picked Steve and I went to play, and I was like, "There's no rage drive in this. There's only a rage art."
That's right.
Yeah, that's vanilla TST7.
Vanilla.
Okay.
And so that game had a lot of balance problems and movement problems and stuff. But like all Tekken versions, they always start with like a vanilla version. So like Tekken 6, Tekken 5 was Tekken 5, then there was 5.1, then there was DR. Tekken 6 was whatever, then Bloodline Rebellion. Tekken Tag 2, then Tekken Tag 2 Unlimited, and Tekken 7, and Tekken 7 FR.
Faded
Thank you.
Retribution.
Faded Retribution. I always forget.
Yeah.
But so what happened between 7 and 7 FR, there was like, I think 6 or 7 different versions of 7, like patches.
Okay.
Then FR came out and they added rage drives. They had balanced more of the rage arts, so like the damage made more sense. They had added some scaling. They fixed the movement, so now everyone can backdash and sidestep.
Okay.
They normalized backdashes, and all of a sudden the game was sick.
Okay.
And obviously then there was Punko Edition where like
Yeah.
Akuma was ridiculous and one hit was like your whole life bar. But
Yeah.
they've had 8 versions since then and they've patched them,
Yeah.
right? So
So the version that came to home consoles was properly cleaned up.
yeah, I mean there have been very few changes since the home console release in June. And they're mostly like bug patches and stuff like that.
Okay.
Small fixes like Eddie's rage art, if you would hit the guy near a wall with it, it would break the wall, and then you could continue a combo afterwards,
Okay.
which is
Yeah,
obviously a glitch.
yeah,
so they fixed that.
That's kind of crazy.
And in fact, okay, there's one thing I just want to say, which I really think Harada is on the ball with this. If there is a major glitch in Tekken, they fix that like really quickly. And I'll give you an example. The patch 1.05 came out on Friday last week with
Okay.
the Tekken Bowl release.
Okay.
And they realized after they released it that if you would go into customization and then go into a match afterwards, the frame rate would drop and the game would slow down mid-battle. They released a patch to fix that on, I think, Monday, like 2 days later.
So you're saying email Harada is more than a meme?
It's more than a meme. Harada actually reads
We can
your
actually
emails.
do this for reals?
It's crazy.
Okay. All right.
I mean, in Tekken Tag 2, Kunimitsu, after she was released on console, she had this glitch where she would crouch under a lot of mids,
Okay.
which is not supposed to happen. No, when you crouch, mid hits you 100% of the time, every time.
That's what a mid is for.
That's right. And they were just going over her, and I created a video about it, and I got like I think 150,000 hits on it. The Tekken team saw it, and they were like, "We got to fix this ASAP,"
Nice.
and patched within a few weeks.
Nice. Okay, so I mean that's that. So that shows that this game is in good hands right now and is being like taken care of, and it gets glossed over a lot. But the Tekken Revolution, like as well, I believe I heard that like some ideas came from that
Yes.
that got carried over into
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. Eliza was in Tekken Revolution, the
Right.
vampire fireball character.
That was her debut. Yeah.
And that was sort of like an experiment. I think they wanted to see how people would react. Did they like Fireball characters? Like, what was the deal? Was Fireballs going to be too strong? She was just fine. She fit right into the game. It all worked out. It was also the first single-player one, like single-character one since Tekken Tag 2. And I think that was like their test to see, how the game would work with one character, how the online would work, because Tekken Revolution had really good online.
Okay.
And yeah, a lot of it carried over.
So like this is like in a way like T7. Besides the obvious that it's the 7th game, like this had the most amount of like research and
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like like previous work done,
Yeah.
building up to what it is. So
And live testing, right? Because gamers were playing it for 2 years while they were
Yeah.
adjusting it.
So all that to really say, I guess, is that this game is fucking good for a reason,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
And so you take that and you put that in a box and you put it down over here. And then on the other side of things now, the majority of people are still entering Street Fighter, right? That is the staple. That is the fighting game basis. That is the, you know what I mean? You build your house on this rock. And, there was that hiccup of a moment, I'd say a couple months ago. It wasn't maybe 2, but whenever Dragon Ball got announced, right,
Yeah.
and Marvel was happening at the same
Oh,
time,
yeah.
and people were upset with season 2 and of Street Fighter 5, that is, and there was just this like collective, Capcom, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah, man.
Right. And then we started to see an exodus of sorts because people were like, look, I got to get ready for this Dragon Ball shit. I need to start playing my Guilty Gear. And or, yo, this Tekken thing is pretty sick, though. I have no reason to not play this more.
Yeah, man.
I was one of those people. And I absolutely picked up Guilty Gear and started playing it for real. But I also picked up Tekken and started playing it for real again. And I think that, I'd call you like the Tekken ambassador of Montreal right now. And like I think we should kind of, I guess, get into some of the things that you helped me figure out and learn that were like bad Street Fighter habits that I had to picked up that were hurting me at first, and then I kind of started to figure out the differences between what you should and shouldn't be doing in a Tekken game in general. And I guess like to sort of discuss there's a lot of people like me right now, I think, and I don't know. Maybe you can give me the perspective on how weeklies and things like that used to go versus now. Like, are you really seeing? Are you seeing a lot of people coming from a Street Fighter background like me, or is it kind of consistent and a little bit here, a little bit there?
Well,
maybe I'm overstating how much of an exodus is happening.
No. If I compare Tekken Tag 2 to Tekken 7, basically the Montreal community is like me and a couple other players. And in Tekken Tag 2, when the game first launched, I think we tried to have weekly events, weekly tournaments, and we had between 6 and 8 players showing up weekly. And with Tekken 7 launch week, 33 players showed up, and we were like, we're not going to have a tournament. People are too new to the game. And Tree and JF and the FBA gods basically were like, is anyone interested in a tournament? Just out of curiosity, putting it out there. And like 20 people were like, yeah, let's do a tournament, bro.
Yeah.
And so we ran a tournament week 1 with most of us not knowing how to play the game. And it was harder for the Exodus people because they had, this is like their first Tekken, day 2 of them touching the game.
Right.
And they were like, let's do a tournament. This game is sick, bro.
Yeah.
And so in terms of the Exodus, first week was 33 players. It shrank down to about 20. But those 20 players, like half of them are either new to Tekken completely or have dabbled in the past. And from those, some are actual Street Fighter and 2D fighters, and some of them just didn't play fighting games before.
Okay.
So the core amount, there's only 8 players that are the core. We've got like 13 new ones or 12 new ones.
Okay.
Just because of how hyped Tekken 7 is, which is insane. It's insane.
And this is, and again, like I know that I personally behind the scenes explode for this. I don't know how many people do, but Geese Howard is not even here yet, bro.
Yeah.
These are the pre-Geese days right now.
I would just like to put just one side note on that.
Yeah.
We have one player in Montreal, Howling or Renato. He is my eternal rival and arch nemesis in the city.
The other ambassador.
That's right. And he's Renato was more of a Street Fighter player than I was because he actually plays Street Fighter competitively, and he's disgusting at HD Remix. Like that's his game. But before that, Renato was a KOF fanatic because he's from Brazil.
Yep.
And
It's in his blood.
it's in his blood. Like he grew up in arcade. Every arcade had a KOF machine, and maybe a Street Fighter machine, but definitely a KOF machine.
Yep.
KOF 98 is like.
Of course,
in my
yeah,
veins,
they
you
hit
know
it
what
up.
I'm
No,
saying,
and well, dude, it was the cheapest machine to order at the time, and you'd put in X pesos, and
Reais.
oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
So
And it would be your game, and every not depender or whatever, every corner store, every bodega, all right, bodega would have one, and it was essential,
Yes.
So like, I'm not surprised, but
So what happened is we were sitting at Evo at my house because every year, my girlfriend is awesome. She knows when Evo weekend comes around. I'm like, you go do whatever you want to do. I'm gonna be parked at home
all right,
from Friday morning till Sunday night. If I have a job, I take the day off.
yeah,
Everyone's welcome.
it's
just
the Super Bowl, honey.
it's the Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, that's cool. So we were all parked at my house watching, and we saw the Tekken 7 finals. And Renato was like, it's gonna be, a Guilty Gear character. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be Soul Bad Guy. It's Soul Bad Guy, bro. He went to Arxis. It's Soul Bad Guy. And then he just sees the slats opening because you remember that.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
trailer? And he's like, and I could see Renato going like, and he saw Geese and he was like, yeah,
Fools be gone.
and he lost his mind. Like it was like the greatest
best.
thing. It's
It's
like
the
he was
best.
8 years old again.
Like the only bittersweet thing to me is that like there will never be a cast this fucking solid
Oh, yeah.
after this.
Yeah.
Because these are the guest characters for this game. So you want to get in now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess the things I want to address before we go sit down and actually start to take a look at it in depth is like a lot of what intimidates 2D players and a lot of what intimidates people like me when I looked at Tekken and said I want to try and play this a little bit seriously and see how good I can do is things like the 100+ move list, things like the number of options in neutral that you have, the very concept of sidestepping, very intimidating to someone who has never really done that.
100%.
Less buttons, more functions, and the concept of like not just highs and lows, but mids, and then not just standing and crouching attacks, but while rising.
Yeah.
and you know what I mean? Like there's lots of just very weird moments here that are like, this is not following the rules of like, even if you played like anime, you're like, no, this is not coming from that place. If you play
At all.
if you play Street Fighter, you can go move into anime and go, oh, it's a little bit more faster and hyper and air dashing. Got it. Okay. But here you got to really throw a lot of that out.
Yeah. I mean,
How do you get past that sort of intimidating first step? Because you do play both.
okay, so let's start with the buttons. So in Street Fighter, if you consider every normal a character has is like a move, right? Every character has like minimum 6 normals,
Yeah.
right? And then plus, let's say, your usual like DP, Tatsu, Fireball, 1 or 2 other moves, like 5 specials, right?
Combo filler, pressure. Yeah.
So, and then you've got 6 normals, plus you've got your 5 special moves that brings you up to 11. Let's say 12 for simplicity's sake. And then from there, you've got your jumping 6 normals, 18, and you've
Maybe
got
1 or 2 close normals to worry
yeah,
about.
so 20, 22, and then your crouching normals, you're at 28, right? Max, if you've got like command normals like Guile, you'll bring up to like 33 or 35, 40 tops, right? Tekken is riddled with moves that aren't necessarily useful, but a character has. So I'll give you an example. If you take like someone like in Street Fighter that's got like a jumping light punch, right? Most of the time with a lot of the cats, you'll never use your jumping light punch. You know what I mean? Maybe if you're going to jump in and do like a jump light punch with very little hit stun to grab immediately.
Yeah.
But most of the time you'll do jumping light kick.
Yeah.
Right? So jumping light punch, from what I know in Street Fighter, from the way I've played it, mostly used as like an up back tick out of the air if the guy jumps at you.
If the guy,
right?
yeah.
Very little, if not completely useless. Tekken has a lot of moves like that. So they're like, we call them scrub killers, where you've got like a 3-hit string that seems so strong, and it's like, left punch, right kick, so 1, 2, 4. But it's really terrible as a string because you can sidestep it, you can crouch it, you can
When you
launch
know
it.
it's coming, there's a million ways around it.
Yeah, and so once you know those things, like half the cast's moves list gets thrown out. And then on top of that, when you see the moves, it says like there's 180 moves for a character. it's stuff like the first move is 1. The second move is 1, 2. The third move is 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And you're just like, okay, this could be all one move, right? It's just
Right.
you remember the 1, 2, 3 is the string, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Urian's forward medium punch.
Yeah.
Do you consider forward medium punch a separate move as forward medium punch, forward hard punch? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or is it like one string that you just memorize?
A target combo.
Yeah.
The target combo would go under one slot in
Yeah. So
Street Fighter.
So Tekken's like that. Like there are target combos all over the place that are
Okay.
like 3 or 4 hits, and you know them.
So, to learn how to fight against people that play and main characters, about how many moves do you think you need to sort of recognize on the average?
You need to know every character's top 10 moves. Let's
Top
say.
10.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then it becomes very manageable. It becomes like Street Fighter-ish. You know, you just know 10 moves, and then they might catch you once with like a random weird string you've never seen before.
Yeah.
But it'll work once, and then you'll be like, oh, that's not good, and then you crush them for it next time.
Right.
But
And when we say know those 10 moves, we mean like know and punish.
yeah,
right?
know and punish or know how to deal with them. Because usually, if there's every character's top 10 moves are usually good and not super punishable, right? But the thing is, a lot of characters share moves. So like every character has, or barring like the weird ones like Jack, let's say, who's got long limbs but slower punches. Every character will have like a generic jab, which is 1. They'll have a 1-2. They may have a 1-2 extra button string, like 1-2 kick or 1-2 punch. They'll have crouch jab. They'll have a down forward 1 most of the time, which is just kind of like a mid punch that tracks one way. These are all generic moves that most characters have. And so once you understand that, a large part of every character's moves list is replicated across the board. So like Josie has a 1-2-2, so punch, punch, punch
Yep.
as her main punish. She has a hop kick, up forward 4, and she's got like a down 4, which is like a generic low kick. You take Fang, he's got 1-2-2, has this 3-hit punish. He's got a up forward 4 hop kick.
Okay.
He's got a down 4 or a down back 3 as a generic low.
So a lot of this is shared knowledge.
Yeah.
Where you learn it for one character, you're going to be learning it for quite a few others.
Exactly. If you can punish one hop kick, you can punish all the hop kicks.
Okay.
You'll never have a hop kick in this game that'll be an actual hop kick with the same properties. That'll be safer. Every hop kick in the game is minus 13 or more.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you have the category of orbital heals.
Well, before frames is a whole other thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But,
yeah. And then you've got orbital heals, which are safer hop kicks, but they're much slower, and you can tell they're much slower, so they're in a separate category.
Orbital heal.
Yeah, like Brian's super slow spinning hop kick or
Okay.
Lars' super slow spinning hop kick.
Okay.
They're safe, but they're so slow that if you just jab, you catch them out of the air and continue.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um,
So something else that I guess I think about is this was a recent learn for me actually, was like in fighting games for better or worse, like there's turns, right? At the end of my pressure now, it's unsafe. This is where you take your turn. In Tekken, that happened. This turn switching is really fast, and
Yeah.
if you miss your window, it's done.
Yeah.
It's gone, and you're locked in for possibly 2 or 3 more almost.
yes.
Learning how or when to take your turn is part of that same 10 moves that you need to recognize.
Yep.
Correct?
Yes, absolutely. So taking turns is a really interesting concept because in Tekken, because of the 3D nature of the game,
Yeah.
you can constantly steal turns. And because of the nature of highs, mids, and lows, you can also steal turns. And I'll give you an example. If I do a down forward 1, so like a mid punch, right? And I know we're going to bring up frames, it's very slightly negative, like -1 or -2. In Tekken, the fastest move is usually 10 frames. A couple of exceptions, but we'll assume it's 10 frames across the board.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to get into that once we were in the game, I think.
Yeah.
But, like,
So
in general, 10 frames is kind of
is-
what you're operating around.
Yeah, so you do a move that's like -1 or -2. Technically, if your opponent jabs, he beats whatever you do next. But you can crouch jab, and that beats the high, and you can keep going. Or you can sidewalk, and that'll like laterally move around his jab, and then you can keep going.
So it doesn't matter how fast what he was about to do was. You were not even in the place to get hit because you were positioned completely to avoid it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so in Tekken, you really lose your turn when you do a move that's very negative, like -9 or -8. It's safe, so he can't punish you, but you have so many negative frames that you can't sidestep or backdash or even crouch jab. There's just not enough time. And so in those situations, that's when you really lose your turn. But the rest of the time, you don't lose your turn so much. In fact, I actually made a list of things. So, okay, here's a really good analogy. In Street Fighter, if you're playing someone without an EX reversal, right? So let's say Ryu when he doesn't have
bar.
a bar.
Yeah.
And let's say you don't have V reversal either. If you're in the corner and your opponent presses, like Urian presses standing medium punch, gives him +3, you can't press a button afterwards.
There's nothing you can do.
There is
you
nothing.
have to take it. Yeah.
There is nothing you can do at all.
Yeah.
In Tekken, there are very few situations like that where you block something and there is nothing you can do.
Okay.
Because in Street Fighter, your options are, in that situation, invincible reversal or nothing, right? You can't really press a button through, his standing medium punch into, let's say, he crouch jabs, right?
So how many things can you do?
In Tekken, in any given situation, there are always 4 options. So you can block, and conversely, as the other thing of block is backdashing, right? You can sidewalk or sidestep. I put them together as well. You can crouch, or you can press a button, right? So in Street Fighter, I guess you would have 2 options. You would have invincible reversal or press a button, right? In Tekken, you always have 4 options. And what that does is, if your opponent tries to put pressure on you, there's always at least 1 or 2 ways out. Almost always. Unless he's got like plus crazy amounts of frames, there's always something you can do to get out. And what this does is you're never really locked down in Tekken once you understand how the game works. There's always a way to sort of backdash or sidestep or get around what he's about to do next. So what this does is it means every turn is like a 6-way mix-up.
Okay.
And instead of being like Street Fighter where you just do standing medium, crouching medium, and you lock him down, in Tekken you have to do something like a plus frame move, and then you choose one that'll beat most of his options. Not all, most.
Okay.
So,
So if you went into, let's say, a tracking mid, right? It would beat a sidestep. It would beat a crouch.
It would probably catch a backdash, maybe,
Possibly.
but it would lose to him pressing a button, right? And it would lose to him just stand blocking, because then you're on minus and it's his turn, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So most of the time, like the tracking mid is a good analogy because it'll catch like 3 out of 4 options, right? But then let's say he knows you're going to do the tracking mid. It's slower than the perfect frame trap. He can just jab and beat you before you get there. And so next time around, you're like, okay, he's going to jab. This time you do a perfect frame trap, but he blocks. And now he has frames and it's his turn again. So there's always these mini mix-ups. The thing with Tekken that's interesting is there's always these mini mix-ups and turns happening, but none of them are really as devastating as losing a turn in Street Fighter, right?
Losing a turn in Street Fighter means 40% of your health.
Yeah. And often, 2 or 3 mix-ups in a row. I mean, if you imagine you're against Balrog and he's got stacked V and you miss your turn, he can just go,
Yeah.
woo!
Yeah. Yeah.
Here we go, circus time.
Right. And when we say losing a turn, because like the regular back and forth is the neutral that you play. You block a couple things. It's now my turn to take it. But when you completely steal someone's turn, as you were to say, right, you can completely throw the round away in Street Fighter. In this case, that can happen if you get juggled to the wall. That can happen if you get
if you
staged crushed through the floor.
The thing is, the game is limited in terms of how much damage you can really take and the scaling. Some characters can do like 80% damage combos. And not 80 damage, 80%, right? But most of the time, worst case scenario, you're going to lose 50 to 60% of your life bar if you eat something major, right? But that's not really the case a lot of the time. You can make mistakes and miss a turn, and all you'll eat is like a 17 to 20 damage, which is like a fraction of your life bar. Life bars in Tekken are 180, by the way.
As a damage value.
Yeah.
Okay.
Life bars are universal. There's no higher and lower bars.
Okay. I definitely do want to get into the game and start looking at some of I basically just want to address common situations you see with characters and how to beat them, right? And or what you should expect when you're facing off against most of the cast to sort of, simplify a lot of this.
Well, there is just one thing I'd like to say just to give sort of new players or 2D players an insight into what Tekken's like. Think in Street Fighter how you've got proximity block and footsies, right? So you've got
To break that down, proximity block is how at a certain range of the screen you can walk freely, but once you enter a certain range of the other person pressing a button, you automatically start to block, right, at a certain range. That's what he means.
So Tekken has a universal backdash, which means every character has the exact same size backdash. They've normalized it. And what that does is it makes everyone sort of Vega, in terms of footsies. They can like forward, back, footsies, roller skate around, you know? And there's no proximity block. So there's never any given time where you're stuck blocking and you have to. If you're not actually blocking a button, and you can move always. And what that does is it makes the focus in Tekken very, very, very heavily on movement. And a lot of Street Fighter players can translate that with footsies. Just because if you're used to like sort of doing the forward back dance like people do mid-screen with Street Fighter, if you're playing like a fast walk character like Vega or Karen or any of the other ones like that, you can do the footsie dance, and that translates not so badly to Tekken.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Not how do you feel, but rage arts, rage drive is a thing that happens, and when you're in the moment where it's like you have the lead, but not so much of a lead that you won't lose the round right now eating one, the game stops. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so when you hit, I think, about 25% of your health, which is like the life bars start a yellowish shade and they go towards red.
Yeah.
When you get into the red section, you've lost enough life to get to there, you get rage. And what rage does is all your hits do more damage. You have access to a rage drive one time. One time super, super awesome plus frames move. And you have access to a rage art, which is like a Street Fighter Super, one time. All of those rage arts are the same in that they have invincibility on startup. But some of them are faster and some of them are slower. Like Steve's is 13 frames, which is insane. And depending on how little life you have, they do more damage. So if you've got like a sliver of life left, and you land a rage art, you're going to do half of your opponent's life bar.
Yeah.
This is a new addition to the game. And originally when it started
it's a comeback mechanic.
It's a comeback mechanic. Yeah. Rage was a comeback mechanic they added a couple of versions ago. In this version, what they did is they toned down rage. So your rage hits do less damage, but they gave you a rage drive and a rage art. Originally, I thought these mechanics were fucking scrubby. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they made this like Street Fighter on crack.
Right, it's Ultras, it's X Factor.
But as I played the game, I realized they actually add a little bit more depth to the end of a round. So when someone has rage, all of a sudden they become a little more threatening because they can do like any two buttons, another two buttons, and then if they think you're going to press a button back, they just go activate. And then you press a button into a super.
Yeah.
It's like akin to a Street Fighter player doing like a crouching medium kick that's minus frames, and then his opponent's going to press a button back, and he knows, and he just goes, super!
Now, it reminded me initially of the shittiest part of KOF 12, which was the critical counter system, which was just a moment where when this bar fills, if I land a crush counter on you, it's just a free damage for whatever purpose, and all you had to do was just wait for the bar to run out, and then you continue playing. So it became a game of, I'm going to run away for these couple seconds, and then the game continues. That's not what's happening here.
No, because what's interesting is when you land a rage art, first of all, you're not guaranteed to kill your opponent. And if you use it early, it'll do very little damage, and you don't have rage anymore. So, if your opponent's got a full life bar and you have rage art, he probably is not going to care. He'd be like, I'll take it. I'll take the rage art, and then you don't have rage, you don't have any more resources, I'm coming after you after that. So it becomes this weird thing where you have to be like, okay, so he's got still a full life bar, I'm going to try to play conservatively and get a combo on him.
Yeah.
Then once I land one combo, now I'm really threatening because now I can kill him with the next one.
Because the rage will, like a mid-round rage, it'll you might equalize your life, but if you didn't get him into his rage or so, then he still has that tool coming back at you. Yeah.
Right. And then so the other thing is, all the rage arts in the game are either high or low, so you can crouch them and super punish them, or they're mid and heavily unsafe. So if you activate it wrong, you're dead. You use your rage art, he blocks it, and he kills you straight up. So there's that as well. Like it's like a really big gamble. So you got to make sure if you're going to gamble, you better kill him with it because if you gamble wrong, you die.
Right.
And then so what starts to happen in the metagame now is players, when they see you have rage, they see how much life they have. If they have a lot, they're like, I'll just take it. Whatever. And then they just go in aggressive. But if they're in a range where they might die, they'll be like, okay, now I'm playing around the DP.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it adds a little bit of that Street Fighter mentality.
Right.
And I noticed this because I'm not used to using DPs in Street Fighter. I'm not very good with reversals. I tend to get myself killed most of the time. Like, the Ken meme where it's like, I don't know what I'm going to
show you. Maybe I should show you. Yeah.
And I'm that type of guy with those. So, but Renato, the devil, as you know, he's originally a Street Fighter player and before that a KOF player, so he's good with reversals. Many times we've played and we've gotten down to the wire, and I think I've got a lead, and he's like, he's gonna press activate, and he'll kill me as I press a button into him. And so, Street Fighter players that play Tekken that can master the basics of Tekken will have an edge in those situations because they have the reversal mentality
Game and
in
play.
it.
Like the bait, right? They know how to do the bait.
They know how to do the bait, and they know how to make the opponent, because he's waiting for the bait, take advantage to it and be more aggressive.
Yeah, I grab you.
Yeah, and they also know that because he knows that I know that he knows that they've got that whole mix-up going. Tekken players don't have that yet.
Yeah.
So
Yummy layers.
It's delicious. I feel
Okay.
and then the addition of rage drives on top of that means that if your opponent has put you in a position where you're a low life and you've got rage, and he's like, he's a conservative player. He's like, I'm just gonna block and hope you do a rage art and you die, and I'm gonna punish you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's trying to bait you out to use it.
Yeah.
In those situations, if you are not sure, you can throw your rage drive out instead. And what the rage drive does for most characters is there's no armor on it, but it's fast and it gives you usually very large amounts of plus frames.
Yeah, you usually end up extremely safe off for the trade-off, right?
And if it hits, big combo. So most of the time they're really good. There are a couple of characters like crappy ones like Miguel, but other characters have really sick ones and they can just go on the offensive and take control of a round. So all this adds up to make the comeback mechanics in Tekken very interesting. And the best part for me is they're not overpowered. You've got a rage art once, and if you fail, it's gone. You've got a rage drive.
And you're gone.
And you're gone, yeah.
Yeah.
You've got a rage drive once. If you fail, it's okay, you're neutral, but you don't have resources anymore.
Yep.
And you don't have rage anymore, so your hits do less damage. Or you've got rage, which you can just use those buttons and just
See where it takes you.
see where it takes you, you know?
Yep.
So what I like about it is it's once. It's not as strong as X Factor. It's not as overpowering as X Factor. It's not as overpowering as like a V bar plus super bar.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's still strong enough that it makes the metagame interesting.
Anytime something has a timer to it, like you can just wait it out. I feel like it encourages this weird like passiveness that is then going to be like, well, I can just run away for this timer, and then I can go back to playing neutral. But when you know that they have it in and that's not going anywhere until they spend it, you have to commit and stick with that game plan. And my favorite thing, the fucking best thing in the world about the way Rage is handled in this game is that the invincibility that you have to blow through something doesn't apply if you're about to die.
Yeah.
So you can only take that hit through Super Startup if you've got the life for it.
Yeah.
If you don't have the life for it, you're fucking dead, and that is great.
So the reason for that is because if you have this much life, your rage art will probably do like a third of his
That's
life bar.
very small for the camera, but sure.
If you've got like 25% life, let's just say the numbers. If you've got 25% life,
Sure.
your rage art will take like 30% of your opponent's life. But as he hits you and you activate it, you'll take some damage, bringing you down to, let's say, 20, so you'll do more.
Yeah.
If you've got 3% life, or like any hit will kill you,
Yeah.
your rage art is going to do half of your opponent's life bar. But you can't activate it through a button of his because he will kill you with that button. Because the way rage arts work is you absorb a hit, and it scales the damage, so it doesn't do as much damage as it would normally, but you'll still take some damage.
But it's not invincibility frames, it's armor.
It's armor.
And that's such a key distinction that a lot of I don't know what other fighting games currently do that. None really. Most supers, you just start out, you've got no hitbox, and then it's happening. And in this case, it's like it's not a brainless decision. You can't completely throw everything away on it. A button blows you up.
Yep.
I love that.
And there are restrictions on how you can use it. For example, if your opponent has enough plus frames, and then he does a perfect frame trap afterwards, where he's got a big window of frames, I'll walk you through it later, you can't use it. And if you're waking up from the ground and you're mashing it, and your opponent does a button as you wake up, it won't work. So there are limitations on how you can use it. It's not a get out of jail free card.
Okay.
That's part of what makes it beautiful.
Awesome. I'm glad because on first glance it sounds like another shitty comeback factor that people would get upset at, but it breaks down into something more than that. And that's awesome. Shall we get into it?
Let's do it.